Good evening. Welcome to our Maundy, Thursday service. A time of contemplation, meditation, a moment to draw yourselves inward as we imagine the happenings of the last days of life of Jesus of Nazareth. Let us begin this evening with sharing our opening prayer. You'll find that printed on our one-page order of service tonight. Our God, whose wise love gave us this night of remembering failure, forgive us for leaving you, for ignoring others, for not letting your love in us have its way. Cleanse us. Open us so that the love may flow freely in and out for the sake of the world, which needs forgiveness and healing. We pray through Jesus the Christ. Amen. Our responsive reading this evening is adapted from the poem, You Are What You Are. You who give life to great and to small, you in each hour are life every hour.
You are the agitator who stirs the nerves and causes peace in the core of our being.
You are the darkness that understanding cannot darken, and the light that penetrates through every mystery.
You are the beyond
challenges each assertion, and the advocate who strengthens our faith.
You are my conscience who saves every effort, and mercy who forgives all our wrongs.
You are the unknown that mocks the theologian, and the crystal riches that overflow the heart.
You are the hurricane that splinters the rocks, and the fortress that's strong in every tempest.
You are the death that ends our sufferings, and the real life that conquers death.
You are the judgment that shifts the nations, and the faithful love that orders the world.
You are the zeal of the rebel who plunders, and the compassion that reconciles in the midst of violence. In you all things live, move, and have their being. In you is the war and peace of our essence. Tonight, we remember that after Jesus entered Jerusalem, he spent a few days preaching and teaching. He told stories in order to teach people about God. And some of the things Jesus said upset the people in charge. Jesus was too kind to the people who had no power. And he believed in helping them, even if that meant bending the rules a little bit. But one rule that he followed in that time was observing the Passover. And the Passover was a time when Jews, of which Jesus was one, a time when Jews remembered that they had been liberated from slavery in Egypt, and that the angel of death had passed over their homes. From the Gospel of Luke, chapter 22, verses 14 through 19. When the hour had come, Jesus took a place at the table with the apostles. And Jesus said to them, "I've longed to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. I tell you, I will not eat it again until everything is fulfilled in the reign of God." Then, taking a cup of wine, Jesus gave thanks and said, "Take this and share it among you. I tell you, I will not drink wine from now on until the reign of God comes." And then Jesus took bread, and he gave thanks for it, broke it, and he gave it to them, saying, "This is my body, which will be given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." Jesus did the same with the cup after supper and said, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood, which will be poured out for you." And Jesus celebrated the Passover with his friends, even though he knew one of his friends had turned him in to the authorities for just a little bit of money. He worshiped with his friends, even though he knew they would all abandon him after he was arrested and put to death. And he worshiped with them, even though one of them would deny that he even knew Jesus. And what he asked in return was that we love our God and our neighbor, and that we remember him. So tonight, we will imagine how 5 people who knew him in his last hours may have remembered the soul who was Jesus.
I am a centurion in service to Tiberius, Princeps Pinatus of Rome. My superior sent me to this wretched province to help preserve order. I do not like the Jews, and for the most part, I do not interact with them, except at crucifixions or when breaking up disturbances. These Jews are not happy to be wards of Rome, even though they basically rule themselves through their Sanhedrin. However, Rome has taxed them heavily, and they do not like it. Each year, as these Jews celebrate their Passover festivals, our Governor Pilate grants them the release of one prisoner. The Jews could have easily asked for the prisoner Jesus of Nazareth this year, but instead they called for Barabbas, a Jewish favorite who was a murderer and a rebel. Perhaps you have heard of Barabbas. I hate crucifixions. The suffering is terrible, and the victims usually scream and beg and shout to their God to give them death. Yesterday it was different. There were 3 of them, a thief on either side of this man Jesus, the so-called King of the Jews. They say he never responded to Pilate's accusations. He took his lashing and physical abuse without protest, then carried his own crossbar as best he could up the hill. Once on the hill, we fitted the crossbar into the upright, nailed his wrists and feet, and then lifted the whole thing erect. It was a very long afternoon. He spoke 7 times, sometimes to people standing around him, sometimes to his God. When he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do," I was truly touched. The man was dying, and he asked his God to forgive me, the instrument of his death. About halfway through the crucifixion, the sky turned dark. At the end, he commended his spirit into the hands of his God and raised his eyes to the heavens as if he could see his God, as if his God was a personal friend. Then we felt the earth shake under our feet. Just another earthquake. We have them all the time. His friends then took the body away to entomb it before their holy day began, which is today. Now I find myself thinking of him constantly. There is much here to be discovered about this Jesus of Nazareth. I want to know more about this quiet man who died with such dignity. Perhaps our Roman gods are false gods. I have never truly prayed to Jupiter or Apollo. I certainly could never pray to the Emperor Tiberius as a god. The Jews say that their God is the one true God. And this man Jesus certainly had a link to his God and was able to endure and die gracefully with his God's help. I have a feeling in my heart, in my soul, that this man was the Son of God. I'm not sure what will happen next. Maybe this is not finished for me. Maybe it's just beginning.
It is over. For 6 hours, I watched him hang on the cross, and I suffered with him. I felt the stabs of pain in his wrists and feet. I felt the agony of trying to breathe through lungs compressed from his own hanging weight. I felt his thirst, and I felt his love. He was my son, after all, my own flesh and blood. But he was someone else's son as well. And as he looked down from the cross, even in his agony, he could feel his love for us, all of us, even his persecutors. When Jesus was a little boy, he was not well liked by his peers. He was always too perceptive, too advanced for his age. I remember when he was 12 and he was missing from the group heading home to Nazareth after the festival of the Passover. We hurried back to Jerusalem and searched until we found him in the temple, sitting among the teachers. He was not only listening to them, he was answering their questions with wisdom and intelligence beyond his years. They were amazed. And when we admonished him, his reply was, "Didn't you know I had to be in my Father's house?" My Father's house. But of course, I knew he was going to be a special child, for the mystery of his birth I still cannot talk about. But never did I foresee the events that happened yesterday. Never did I imagine that my son, who had ministered to his people for 3 years with gentleness and love, would be crucified by the Romans. And for what? For being a good man? A man who stood for peace, who taught that the meek would inherit the earth, not the bullies? I do not understand any of this. His death was too cruel. He was my firstborn, and I loved him as only a mother can love. My heart is numb with grief. Now it is over. He is gone. I pray to God that he will send me comfort in this terrible time. I lift up my eyes to the hills, but where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. O Jesus, my Son, what have they done to you?
I am Joseph. I come from Arimathea, a small town on the road from Joppa to Jerusalem. I am a wealthy man, a member of the Sanhedrin, the council that rules the Roman province and reports directly to Pilate, our governor. We have a king, Herod Antipas, who is a mere figurehead, but he has done some good deeds. He is restoring the temple to its former glory, making it again a focal point for all the Jews who make pilgrimages here during the holy season. And so it was that Jesus of Nazareth came to Jerusalem with his followers to celebrate Passover. I have followed his preachings for many months. I cannot admit this to Herod or to the Sanhedrin, but I truly loved and admired Jesus. I found nothing seditious in his words. After all, he said, "Give to Caesar what is Caesar's." He taught a discipline of love, not hate. He spoke of things in a kingdom to come, not here in Herod's time. And he was able to heal the sick and the lame with a single touch or a solitary word. As for his so-called trial, he was accused, convicted, and sentenced without making argument on his own behalf. He was treated badly, as are all prisoners, then made to carry his own crossbar to the site of his execution, Golgotha, the place of the skull. As he suffered on the cross, he cried out a verse from one of David's Psalms, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And we knew his suffering was truly terrible. Afterward, I went to Pilate and asked for his body. The Romans had pierced his side with a spear and certified him as dead. We had to lift his abused body and torn body off the cross. The Romans would not do it. They preferred to let the bodies rot in place as a lesson to us. It seems that most of Jesus' followers had dispersed, perhaps in fear of their own arrest. Mary, his mother, and the disciple called John remained, along with a few others. As we lifted him down, the tears were streaming down our cheeks. We wrapped him in a clean linen cloth filled with spices and took him to the tomb that I had prepared for myself, a tomb hewn out of rock. And we laid his body on a stone. Then we rolled a large stone into the opening to seal it. That was yesterday. The women will anoint his body with oils and spices tomorrow, after the Sabbath. I pray that his disciples will regroup and remember his teachings. They are a poor lot, basically uneducated, but they are devout in their love for him. I loved him too, and will mourn with them. What a terrible and tragic end to such a promising life. Still, I cannot help feeling that it all has a deeper meaning. He gave his life for something bigger than us all. He is either going to be the greatest man in Jewish history or the biggest failure. Either way, he will live in my heart forever.
I too mourn him. I wear ashes as my ancestors have always done, to show that their hearts are breaking. He is gone. The one I worshipped, the one I believed in, the one who meant so much to me and my family. It was Yeshua, Jesus, who awakened my brother Lazarus from the sleep of death. My brother had been dead and entombed 4 days when Jesus arrived in Bethany to restore his life. Jesus went into the tomb, then came out, and there was silence as we watched my brother, now perfectly whole, healthy, and sane, emerge from the tomb. First we were speechless. More than everyone rejoiced that Lazarus, who was dead, was now alive and whole before our eyes. It was a miracle. Not that I needed a miracle to believe in him. The first time I looked into his eyes and felt the message of love and peace and serenity that dwelt in them, I knew I would follow him. Once, when Jesus and his disciples were visiting, my sister Martha scolded me for not helping her, because I sat at his feet and did no work. But he said I had chosen the better part, and the smile he gave me warmed my heart. When I sat close to him, I felt happy, content, at ease with myself and the whole world. And then, about 6 days ago, Jesus returned to Bethany. To pay him tribute, I sat at his feet again. Only this time, I anointed him with costly ointment. When Judas argued that the money I spent on the ointment could have been used to feed the poor, Jesus replied, "The poor you will always have with you, but you will not always have me." It was as if I were anointing him in preparation for burial. I felt a cold stab in my heart. He knew. He knew even then that he would be put to death. And from the reports that had already circulated, he died an honorable death. He never accused anyone or shouted oaths at anyone, not even at the Romans. He merely implored his Father to forgive them all. His disciples all deserted him, except for John. I wish I could have been there. I would not have deserted him. I would have stayed until the end and helped take him away where the Romans could never find his body. I would have protected him and mourned him and felt, as I do now, this great hollowness in my heart. Jesus is no longer in this world. The world is cold and empty and without love. These words from a psalm of King David comfort me. How can I repay the Lord for all his goodness to me? I will lift up the cup of salvation and call on the name of the Lord. I will fulfill my vows to the Lord in the presence of all his people. Precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints. Oh, Jesus, how precious you are in the sight of the Lord.
I speak last because I must. I have a story to tell. I must tell you things that others do not know. I am John, brother of James, the son of Zebedee. I first followed John the Baptizer. Until that John baptized Jesus and proclaimed him to be the Son of God. My brother and I willingly followed Jesus and believed in him from the very beginning, along with Simon, now called Peter, and Andrew. We were his first disciples. We were with him at the wedding in Cana when he performed his first miracle. We were with him when he commanded the wind, the waves to obey him, and when he walked on the surface of the Sea of Galilee. We were with him when he fed the multitudes of people with just a few fish and loaves. And we were with him through many other miracles. He made the blind see and the lame walk. And each time we were in awe of him, yet drawn closer to him at the same time. You may not believe it, but he even made the dead arise and become whole again. And we were with him as he made his triumphal entry into Jerusalem just a few days ago against our better judgment. We met for Passover, the meal, on Thursday evening, and a strange thing happened. He washed our feet. He washed our feet. I almost cried out when he came to me, but something on his face told me not to object. Then Peter, always the outspoken one, objected. But Jesus said, "Unless I wash you, you will have no part of me." Peter relented, saying, "Then not just my feet, but all of me, Lord." It was at this meal our teacher led us through a new ritual. He broke the bread and gave it to all of us, telling us this was his body broken for us. Then he took the wine and gave it to us, telling us it was his blood shed for us. Do this in remembrance of me. Do this in remembrance of me, he said. I will never forget those words, especially not after yesterday, when I saw his body broken and bleeding. After the meal, we accompanied him to a quiet garden for prayer. He charged us with staying awake, but I could not keep my eyes open. Twice, he had to wake us up, but I wasn't too concerned until the Roman soldiers came to arrest him. Then I knew how I regretted going to sleep, when I should have been keeping watch over my master, my teacher, my friend. It ended on the cross. His agony was hard for us to bear. I think any one of us would have gladly changed places with him, had it been possible. I stood by his mother, Mary, as Jesus entrusted her to my care after his death. Now he is gone from us, entombed and waiting till tomorrow, when the women will prepare his body. I am sorrowful. I am sad. My heart is aching with the loss of him. I see no future for his ministry, despite his words charging us to carry on without him. How can we do that? Our head has been severed. We are without leadership, and we are afraid. I am afraid. Jesus, my Lord, my teacher, tell us what to do. We would gladly follow you into death if you only asked. What do you want of us? What do you want of us? Why? Why are you gone from us?
May we hold these words. May we hold this meditation. May we carry it with us in the days going forward. We invite you now to hold those words quietly in your hearts as you leave this sacred space. If you are joining us for the performance, the musical performance after this, please feel free to quietly stand and stretch your legs while we prepare for that. May you be blessed.
As we transition, I will slowly bring the lights up, and if you want to stretch your legs, feel free. There's one on the back of the cross.
Yeah.
There. And there's two extension points too. Great. So pull that and take that. Go on the piano. So right when you pull this up. This powers sound
As you stumble up the steps, it's so we had this weekend and we did a 6 o'clock children's service and 11 o'clock music candle lessons. So the weekends were all supposed to be there. Millions that was agree. Every single year. Go to shake their hands and they have had food before they came to the 11 o'clock service. Well, that's all right, as long as you're not knocking anybody down. Start falling, nobody's sweet. Well, we were the same stairs, and then 15 years ago, they decided they put elevator in one side, and came up to the one level, and then they took that side staircase, so they opened up the whole back, so you walk right up from the entryway, I couldn't imagine what it was like but they had the loft in the back, so it divided the loft. They just opened up the middle part of it. They decided to turn out to be that. So that's. I keep saying this, I'm just relieving
Unfold it.
Sorry, I didn't see that. Oh, is John here?
He's one of my favorites. We have a
I did that too. Well, I had my sunglasses.
He's got so much.
I know.
The last couple of years.
You can call one. I call one. No, I usually don't call one. She can't go with anybody. And so you get we call them students, and they're about 50 bigger than anything else in the jets. To show
I got a better one than that. So I had this horse, this huge horse, absolutely sad. I always rode. Yeah, I always rode a bear. So and she's got a saddle on the horse, and she takes me underneath this huge hemlock, and my hair got caught in the branch. And I didn't have anything to hold me on the horse, so whoa!
And then when you're hanging by your hair,
And Kathy's like, Patty? Where are you? I'm back here.
no, I really and not
Did he stop at the car door? Because mine didn't do that.
we had one.
I always had to, it's closed, not just It's the nest of it. Yes. Of course, today I can't even get up on the red blocks.
I ended up on the night off
Wait, come on over, John.
Oh, I hear that. I go, boom, with my knee.
Because when you can sit between 7 and 7,
The other one's thing, yes, it is a whole environment. So, after I get one of my done, she goes after and spot. When you remember, so this one was things go. And the interesting thing is they will do the so I'm like more I did. Same one. I did
So, it's ready for some reports. That's going to be it was one of those and then you get to you go they usually say
It's just not that easy. You better make that
taking the signs off will be
just like seeing how to substitute teachers was necessary.
And then I'll turn on those.
Okay. Closest to all the states.
So I can't stay. My sister-in-law is coming in. Yeah, it was every day on the road except once. And I really Max teach you hockey.
I think you probably know he's a
Oh, really?
He's a
He's a great team.
yeah, he's really special. My kids have been trying since they were we would drive from the house.
And he just sits there. Points out, hey, yeah, there's a hawk. Yeah, there's another tall deer. No, it's too bad there's no furniture. You collect those things.
Speaking of which, there's a place in Wisconsin called House on the Rock. And the guy was fishing out of the front.
Oh, right, I've heard of it.
So he built this on top of the rock. But the guy was only 5'6", so it was like this, but he collected everything. So he has one big room, a life-size whale being kept by his
Oh, okay, that little one? I was thinking of some brand.
No, no, so what they do is, that left-hand margin, gives you the few words about what the holy day is, and then it indicates within the grid itself, the actual date. So it's kind of operating off of two things at once, but that also has, UN special days, so, and if it's it's like, oh, really? Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Well, I can remember. We lived
I'm well, how are you?
Stationary bike and I was so not every day, but like when I'm doing my CrossFit for my John. I mean, I'm not. I haven't been going up and down in part until I'm a little rough.
This one. Yes, I'm sorry. Good to see you.
You were supposed to sit here.
There's a sweet spot right over there. Sorry.
You're never right.
I might be. Okay.
I know. I told you that I was going over. Everyone's like, into the house.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining the performers this evening at the Peacham Congregational Church. I'm Reverend Sonia Dunbar. Thank you for joining us here in our home. On behalf of tonight's performers, Ellie Blatchley of Peacham, Betsy Brigham of Marshfield, and Allison Cerruti of Northfield, we welcome you to tonight's performance of Pergolesi's Stabat Mater. Giovanni Battista Pergolesi's liturgical sequence of pieces portrays a story of profound grief. Earlier this evening, the church commemorated Maundy Thursday, Jesus of Nazareth's final night of freedom, a night in which he shared the Jewish Passover meal with his closest followers, one of whom would betray him to the Roman authorities. After going to the garden at Gethsemane to pray, he was arrested, imprisoned, tortured, and ultimately was executed the following day by crucifixion, a punishment reserved for traitors. Crucifixions were public affairs, and the Christian Testament identifies Mary, the mother of Jesus, as one of the people standing at the foot of the cross, watching her own son die. Pergolesi composed this liturgical sequence while himself dying at the age of 26. His lyrics portray Mary's heartbreak at the execution of her son, told through the eyes of a narrator. And the narrator in turn cries out to Mary to support him in his own sorrow and to transform him. He begs her to guide him closer to Jesus and prays that through the vehicle of the cross, he will find grace and upon his own death, find himself in paradise. So please enjoy the performance this evening. And the performers have asked, would you please hold your applause until the very end of the performance. This music is meant to be heard as a continuous sequence of pieces. So they thank you for that kindness, and please enjoy the performance this evening. Lord.